After so much talk about the Fujifilm system, I think it's only fair that I mention why I love Nikon. I've mentioned that I love my D600, and I've owned before this, let's see, the D700, the D300S, two of those. Before that, the D200, and before that was a Fuji S2 Pro. That's more or less my digital history. Before that, I used film cameras. For example, I remember using the Mamiya C330 Pro with a backup C220. We're talking quite a long time ago now, so the brain's not so good. I had a backup dead simple Minolta 35mm camera as well, and I've tried out and owned since other Nikon bodies as well as some Canons and all sorts of bits and pieces. But now talking about the digital world, my final professional Nikon was this Nikon D600, and I still love it, and that's why I've still got it. And I have thought about trading it in, but again, cameras just plummet in price, and for me they still hold great value. Now I dread to think how much this is going for, the body only, because frankly I was hoping to sell it while it was worth more, but I just didn't want to sell it. It was just too good, and it still had a place in my gear, not necessarily my daily kit bag, but in my gear. So there's a few functions on this that I really love, and I would recommend, if you're thinking of taking advantage of the second-hand market, the Nikon full frames, and I'm sure Canon and other brands have got their equivalents that are just as good. I don't get into the Nikon Canon argument at all, not interested. All the top brands have got great cameras, let's put it that way. And if you've watched this channel, you know that I can't knock Canon cameras, because although I don't always remember, I do actually own some. In fact, I'm recording this now, not particularly well, but on a Canon EOS M, and I'm using a Pentax lens, an SMC 51.7 with an adapter. Why do I love this Nikon D600? Well, and we're going to fall into the territory of what my Fujifilm X-T1, X Pro 1, X-T10 doesn't have. The newer X bodies, well, let's say the X Pro 2 for now, and I'm assuming and hoping the X-T2 are going to answer some of these things. For example, if we pop open a side there, twin card slots. I read a comment, I think on my YouTube channel, somebody saying a professional should always have two card slots. Well, okay, it is great, and it is a case of having one as a backup. It's the kind of thing you don't want to have to dive into that backup card, but it's there, and it's really a good safeguard. I know one or two photographers actually personally that have been waiting for a twin card slot system come out, and they've moved on to the X Pro 2 now, having tested the waters with other X series bodies, but not jumped fully over until a twin card slot system had come out. But we're waffling about Fujifilm again. I mentioned on another video I weren't that happy with the focal points. Now my D700 had more focal points. I did prefer it for that. For the full frame nature of the camera, this is one of the smaller ones. On this side here, for what it's worth, you've got a mic jack and a headphone jack. Now I've only tested this with video once or twice. That's not a big deal to me at the moment, but that's a nice feature if you're into your video work, and I'm sure this will be okay out in decent light or in a studio with a good lighting setup, a better lighting setup than this, to be frank. I'm working on it. So you've got your HDMI in there and USB. Now, as I'm doing with this Canon EOS M, that HDMI slot can be handy to monitor the screen, because this screen isn't tiltable, same way as my Canon EOS M doesn't have a tiltable screen. And I'm sure there's other uses for that HDMI port as well. There's another one that I've never opened in my life, a GPS port, so that might be of interest to you. The bottom is just a standard affair, tripod mount battery port. I've never had a problem with the battery at all, never fallen out. And of course, this is one massive pro. With a body like this, I could probably shoot almost 2 whole days with this and another body with this one battery. I've never had to change batteries. If you look at the layout on the top, it's pretty easy to work around. You can just push down a little button there and move it across, which reminds me, feature I liked on this, and I had on my 300S, I think, which I did wind up my friend because he didn't have it on his Canon 5D Mark IIs. It's quiet mode. So you've got that's quiet mode compared to... Now, in this environment, you're not going to really hear the benefit. But in a church, for example, in a library, that compared to can make all the difference. That was a big deal when I used this in weddings. Not to compare, but your X series bodies, well, nowadays we can turn off the shutter sound completely, which is just brilliant. Although I don't always do it because sometimes there's a problem with rolling shutter. Anyway, I digress again. The screen on the top is nice and simple to use, and it's backlit as well if you need to. The screen on the back also very easy to get around. The buttons you need down the side are easy. The D-pad is very easy to use. Live mode too, very easy to get around. It's just a nice sturdy camera. It fits well in my hand. Of course, if you're only using light cameras, this will be a jump up in weight, but there are even bigger full frame cameras, so this could be a step up into the Nikon full frame world without breaking your back or your shoulder or your bank. As you can tell, I've got a 51-4 lens on there. That's a standard. You got to get something like that. You can get away with a 1.8. That's a great lens, especially on the crop bodies, but this 51-4 is just a great standard go-to lens. I also own a 14-2.8, and when I was using this full-time, I had a Nikon 24-1.4, this 51-4 and an 85-1.4D, and that was of course with another full frame body, the D600. So 24 1.4, 51.4, 85 1.4. That was my favorite Nikon setup. All Nikon lenses, of course, fantastic. But that 24 1.4 was huge. I've got another video and you can see that, but the images were beautiful. Absolutely loved it. Check out the video for it anyway. You got a nice big viewfinder there. If you wear glasses, it's very easy to adjust on the side there. It's easy to format, easy to go back and review your images. Selecting the modes is very simple. I only usually work between manual, aperture and shutter. Never ever touch any of the others. Something that I do love about the Nikon system is the flash, the CLS system, the continuous lighting system. Not all of the pro bodies have them, but this has a pop-up flash, which really, unless you're using it to trigger other flashes, just don't bother with the pop-up flash at all on almost any camera. If you've got a little camera that you take away on holiday, if you learn how to use the pop-up flash well, it can provide a bit of fill, that's fine. But really I was just using this to trigger my speed lights, and I really do love the speed lights that Nikon put out. I would still go out and shoot weddings with these if I have to, but maybe I'm getting old. I don't need all that weight on a long shoot. Some people love the big heavy cameras and they think it makes them feel like they're at work. Yeah, these are definitely solid workhorses. These are definitely going to get you through the day, and you definitely feel that you can beat them around. Maybe that's what you're into. This isn't the most imposing of Nikon or whatever full frame bodies, but it is notable. That's another topic on another video. I can't let this go. Still love the D600. How do you feel about your full frames if you've moved over to mirrorless? Have you hung on to any of them? Let us know in the comments below. Let's hear what you think. When is it time to get rid of this? Thanks for watching. Get involved below.